In this session, we will begin to look at the questions of Corinth, this Greek church in a Roman world with a Christian faith that sprang out of Judaism with all of its different customs. And what do we follow? In 1 Corinthians 11, Paul says, first of all, the head of the woman is man. Now remember, we said that the wife or woman is only the same word in Greek. It's gyne. How do you know what is being referred to? Context. And so here, the context is about husbands and wives. So we're talking about a wife. In the context, husbands, wives, and Christ is set in parallel to help us understand headship. The husband is the head of the wife in the same way that Christ is the head of the church. And when we see Paul talking about husbands dishonoring their head by praying with it covered, what then is he talking about? Well, let's just look at a few specific things in this passage, 1 Corinthians 11. First of all, men and shawls. In heathen worship, Greek men wore no covering on their heads. In heathen worship, Roman men did wear a covering on their heads out of respect for their gods. In Judaism, Jewish men did cover their heads with a prayer shawl, a sign of their unworthiness to stand before God because of sin. So now these Greek Christians in a Roman world who came out of Judaism are saying, who's right? Cover the head, not cover the head. And Paul said, for a man to cover his head dishonors Christ, that is his head, because it denies the blood which makes him worthy before God. Secondly, men and hair. Slaves in those days had their hair cropped off, while men of noble birth wanted to be proud and show off their noble birth by letting their hair grow. You know what you call that? Snobbery. It's very connected with the heathen Greek gods because there are so many myths about the Greek gods with their long, beautiful hair. And some of these upper class men claimed to be descended from the Greek gods, so they wanted to show off. And it's not so unusual because even in modern times, more modern times, World War II, for example, you see an emperor claiming to be deity. And in olden days, of course, the pharaoh claimed to be deity. In Egypt, it's not that unusual for people to be claiming to be descended from deity. But what Paul is teaching here is that anything done out of snobbery or pride is wrong. We're not to lord it over one another, but we are to esteem others better than ourselves. So that's the men side of the equation. Next time, we'll look at the women.